Hello and welcome to On Second Street, where today we're going to be talking about the perils of cell phones and social media. What are the problems that parents need to be mindful of? And what are some of the potential solutions? We've got two experts who have been following this issue quite closely. Jonah Davids is a policy analyst at the Macdonald Laurier Institute, and Paige McPherson is Associate Director of Education at the Fraser Institute. Thank you both for joining me today. I think this is a really interesting topic just given how much of our lives are focused around cell phones, especially with young kids. I think we all kind of know that we have to be careful around their usage with them. But Jonah, you really dug into this issue recently with a new report that you've issued. So I'll start with you. Could you just tell us a little bit about some of the research findings, what you looked at involving young people and cell phones and some of the problems there?
Absolutely. So there's been a lot of research in the US and the UK, and now I'm trying to sort of, you know, consolidate this research in Canada here, that's looked at the relationship between cell phone usage and mental health. And there's a few ways that they look at this. One way is they look at when were smartphones introduced and what kind of mental health outcomes have we seen since then. Uh, there are studies looking at do people who use their cell phones more have worse mental health, and then there's other kinds of studies that try and get more at the causality of it. So, for instance, in areas where they suddenly got internet and they were now able to use social media, was there worsening mental health? Um, and when you kind of put everything together, and you also combine it with what I think is many people sort of experience of seeing young kids have cell phones. For me, I was sort of one of the first generation to go through that with cell phones and social media. We're seeing that these things do affect how people behave, how they think, and how happy or sad they are. And so, yeah, with this report, I've just tried to kind of gather up the evidence for Canada and tried to make the case that there is something going on there.
I want to discuss this a bit more, but Paige, I want to get your take on this because I know that you follow this issue quite closely. I mean, you've done research on sort of the educational aspects of this and how cell phones affect the classrooms and learning. We'll talk about that in a moment. But you're also a mom. You've got your own children. You follow this issue closely. What are your thoughts about Jonah's research and some of the research findings that he's uncovered?
Yeah, so the research that I've read on the impact on smartphones on mental health and social media on mental health in youth is it's very interesting. It sort of impacts different kids in a few different ways. So on girls in particular, there is a real anxiety that appears to be caused by the use of social media in particular. So just the desire for likes or people following you or giving you that sort of reinforcement online and the absence of that creating a lot of anxiety in young girls. Also, the cyberbullying aspect for all kids. When we were kids and we would go to school, bullying is a very unfortunate but normal thing that happens to all children at some point in their lives. But what we used to leave that at school. Now, what happens is kids will take their cell phones home with them. Cyberbullying is happening all the time. They take it into their bedrooms at night. They can't escape it at all.
Mm.
So there's that aspect, and there's many more other dangerous things that happen to kids when they're using smartphones. But that sort of cyberbullying and anxiety piece, combined with the fact that you just get these real rushes of dopamine from the really highly stimulating content that you're seeing on screens, and there's aspects of that in video gaming as well, but certainly on smartphones where they're
Mm.
using their phones all day, it becomes harder to kind of just get dopamine and enjoyment out of normal things in life. And so that's what our kids are up against today, and that's a real challenge.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And Jonah, I know, adults. I talk to adults all the time. I myself can find this sometimes where cell phones can be addictive. Is part of the problem that maybe kids just don't know how to handle, addictive issues within their life, that they don't have that ability to break free of something that is just keeps pulling them in?
Yeah, I mean, I think most of us honestly can't really break free of it. Most of us are pretty addicted to our devices, to our social media. And so if you're a kid, it's much worse because your brain isn't as fully developed. And also, like Paige just said, you have all of these social dynamics that if you're in school, you can never really get away from. And yeah, I think the combination of all that together just is pretty potent.
Okay, when we come back, I want to talk about not only solutions, but also sort of the classroom effects when it comes to children's learning and cell phones. We'll be back with more right after this commercial break.